Charlie Bosco. Welcome to the Winning Mentality podcast. Joining me today is the first man ever to win an Olympic silver medal in triathlon. Stefan Vuckovic came second, actually he almost won, the inaugural Olympic triathlon in Sydney in 2000 when the sport made its debut at the Games. I met Stefan in a busy small cafe in his adopted hometown of St Albans, just north of London, and when you hear the odd clink of a coffee cup or an order being shouted across the room in the background, you'll hopefully get some idea of how surreal it was to be sitting with an Olympic medalist whose dance across the finish line was one of the finest moments of the Sydney Games as people went about their everyday life oblivious to who was in their midst. Stefan is quite open about the fact that he doesn't really relish public attention, but over the course of this interview he opened up and revealed what the life of an Olympian is really like, from the monk-like dedication required during the training phase. If that sounds like an exaggeration, just wait until he gives the number of hours he used to be training for. The craziness of suddenly living amongst your heroes in the Olympic Village. And of course, he talks about the 17th of September 2000 when he crossed the line to claim an Olympic silver medal. We also discussed what he's up to now and what twists and turns life has taken since that amazing day, which Stefan is honest enough to admit was his one big shot at glory, mainly because he couldn't face another 4 years like the ones that preceded Sydney. He's honest and straightforward and insightful, and we did some philosophizing, I guess you could call it, later in our chat, but there was only one place to start the interview. I want to take you back to the day that you're probably best remembered for, 2000 in Sydney. The video is available on YouTube. I rewatched it again the other day. Extraordinary moment. If you can, just take us back to the last 10 minutes of the first ever Olympic triathlon in the year 2000, coming down Macquarie Street in Sydney.
Yeah, it was the 17th September 2000 in Sydney. Local time was 10 o'clock. I still remember it. And yeah, 10 minutes before the end of the race, I was just leading the race. And I thought there were 20-30 people just behind me because I never turned around. And 1.5 kilometers before the finish, there was a turnaround. And I've seen, whoa, we had just 3 people left. So I have my medal safe. But I've seen there's this Canadian guy, Simon Whitfield, and I knew the last 400 meters. I don't have any chance against him, so I have to get away now. So I tried to get away. I got 50, 60 meters away, but 500 meters before the finish, I was completely destroyed. I couldn't run anymore. So I tried to survive as best as possible to the finish line, but 100 meters before the finish line, he overtook me and had not one drop of energy left to fight against him. But I was so happy I came to the finish line. I realized I got second. I got a medal. And yeah, if you look at the finish, you will see how happy the second place made me.
Yeah, as I said, the video's on YouTube, and you go into the crowd and you grab a German flag because really a silver medal was beyond your wildest dreams, I suppose.
I was in a really good shape, and I knew in running, I put everything into running. I nearly stopped my swimming. I ran so much in the last half year before the race. So it was quite risky, but I thought, okay, all in. And yeah, then before the race, I said, if I have a good swim, I will win. I said it to the journalists, and all the journalists were looking at me, and is this guy crazy? And yeah, but I knew it. It's my running shape is incredible, but I had a really bad swim. And so I tried to make the best out of it. And the second place with a really bad swim, I was happy with.
So after the race finished, what happened then?
Yeah, I came over the finish line, and as you said before, I got the flag on the finish line. I didn't even realize anymore that I took the flag, but I stopped anywhere where I've seen a flag, took the flag away, and took it with me. And when directly afterwards, I had many interviews with German journalists. I think there were 20 of them. And we had one of our team managers. He came to me, okay, you have to come with me. And there are interviews, but I said, yeah, but I was sweating. I'm really dirty. I want to shower first. No. First interview. And so, okay, good. So I made the interview, and then he said, okay, doping control, you have to come directly. And I said, yeah, but what about the shower? No, you have to come directly to the doping control. So I was at the doping control, and another person of our team came to me and he said, "Hey, the woman wants the German flag back." And I said, "Which woman? Which flag?" "Yeah, the flag you took on the finish line." I said, yeah, I remember. Here, the flag. I wanted to keep it as a memory, but I stole it from someone." So he brought it back to this woman. And a nice incident, 5-6 years later, a woman came to me at a public event and looked at me and asked me, "Do you remember me?" And I looked at this woman and I thought, "Oh, no, I'm sorry. Did I do anything wrong, or did I... Yeah, what happened? I'm the woman you took the flag off in Sydney." I said, oh, I'm sorry. And she said, no, it's fine. It's a nice memory for her. It was a little nice story. And yeah, after the doping control, then the second German TV came to me and they said, "Okay, you have to come to the boat. We want to go live on TV." And I said, "Yeah, but I want to shower first." "No, we can go on the boat and you can shower there." And I said, "Okay, good. If that's a solution." So we went to the boat, just arrived there. And then TV said to me, "Okay, in 2 minutes we are live because it's the prime time at home in Germany." And I said, "Boy, I want to shower. Look at me, I'm really dirty." No, we don't have time. So I had to go to this interview. Still in a sweaty, a sweaty body. And this went on till 2:00 in the night. So I went from one event to another to this German house where all the athletes come together, the journalists, the politicians, and I still didn't feel comfortable. But they didn't let me. It was so much to do, and I was the first medal winner of the Olympic Games for the German team. So everybody was beside my happiness, very interested. And then at 2:00, after my 2 Big Macs at McDonald's, I went to the apartment and finally I got my shower.
And what was it like on the podium? What must that experience be like?
It was amazing. Before that, I had so many tears in my eyes, and then standing on the podium on place 2, I looked up to Simon Whitfield, who won, and I looked at him and I said to him, "What did I tell you?" Because in the morning on the way from the village, we were brought by boat from the village to the opera where the race was. And
the Sydney Opera House.
Yeah, Sydney Opera House. And I was sitting beside Simon Whitfield, and I told him, just for fun, "Hey, Simon, today I will be on the podium, you will see." And he was laughing at me. And then a few hours later, we were both standing up there, and I looked at him, and what did I tell you?
And I think I know the answer to this question, but I know how happy you were with the silver medal, but sometimes when you're lying in bed, do you ever think, maybe there was something left in my legs, maybe I could have just hung on, or do you just know that you absolutely got the maximum from what you could have done?
That was the maximum. There were so many moments I thought about it, what could I have changed? But there's nothing I could have changed. He was the better runner in the end. He was in the beginning in the first bike pack. I was in the second because I swam so bad. So that's, a little better swimming, I would have been in the same pack. I would have had the chance to beat him in the run. But through all the effort on the bike to come into his group and in the bike, that cost me so much energy, and that's what made it that he won. So he deserved it.
Why did you focus so much on the running coming into the Olympics? Was that your weakest element of the 3?
It was my strongest, but I thought, okay, you have to try. If you want to win, you have to put everything on one card. And I said, then I will run. I run up to 200 kilometers a week. And that was quite new for triathletes. Meanwhile, lots of triathletes run that much. And so, I had to take the risk. If I have a really bad swim, I will be maybe 30th, 40th. But it's the same like with the 4th place. Nobody will talk about the 4th or the 30th. So I put everything into the run. That was the reason.
So your tactic basically was to be okay at the swim, okay at the bike, and then just put the hammer down on the run.
Yeah, some kind of. So I really neglected the swim. I had, compared to the year before, maybe 50% of the mileage in the swim. But I changed my bike training as well a bit because the course in Sydney was very special with lots of corners. And so I trained lots of sprints after corners. And I think that was another reason why I had such a good day, or 2 good races in this year in Sydney. The qualification race was in Sydney as well, and I became second there as well. And this 17th of September, all my dreams came true.
But of course, you've been competing in triathlon for an awful long time at that stage. Your career started in, what, 1991?
Yeah, my first race I did in 1991 because my teacher told me to do triathlon, because he's seen in sport that I was quite good in swimming and running without training. And so he told me to buy a bike and do triathlon. And as you know, in school, you have to listen to your teachers. So I started triathlon. And yeah, the first years, sure, you had to build up stuff. And already 1996, 1997, I had incredible races. I was second in the World Cup in my first World Cup race. I was second in the European Championships, won European Cup races. And we had a big change, 97 in the national coach team, and 98, 99, I suffered with these coaches. So at the end of 99, I changed my whole surrounding, the coaches, everything. And that was perfect for me for the year 2000.
So paint the picture for us in the mid-90s. Where were you living and what was the triathlon scene like? Because as we mentioned, it wasn't an Olympic sport until 2000.
It was first, I think they talked about 95, 96 to get into Olympic program. And then finally in 1997, they decided that triathlon is in the Olympic program, but just as a guest sport. Every hosting village is allowed to put, I think, 2 sports of their choice into the Olympic program. And Olympic Games Sydney put triathlon and I think taekwondo into it. So that was the reason why triathlon was first time there. And so everything changed. More money came into sport, more athletes, everything got more professional. 95, we changed from non-drafting races into drafting races. And
what's the difference between a drafting race and a non-drafting race for non-triathletes?
Yeah, before that, on the bike, you had to cycle on your own. So there was no drafting allowed. You couldn't cycle in a pack. And from the first World Championships was 1995, drafting was allowed, was in Mexico.
So drafting is following another cyclist to gain an advantage?
Yes, like in these cycle races you see on TV where you cycle behind each other and they can work together in little packs or in bigger packs or in teams. And that was the big change, 95. And then from year to year, the type of athlete changed as well. I remember 95, 96, I'm a really quite big guy. I have lots of muscles. But if you look now 10, 15 years later, these guys are all so skinny. I think they have all 10, 15 kilos less than our generation had 15 years ago. And that's a massive change in the sport because running got more and more important in the race.
Is it also increased understanding of training techniques? I mean, when you were competing in the early 90s, was it quite amateur feeling? Were you able to make a living from triathlon?
You could just survive if you were quite good. There were maybe a handful worldwide who could make good money for surviving or for living. But most of the others, they just had enough money to pay their bills and to get enough food. I worked beside my study as a cycle messenger to earn some money, but it was best training for me. So I earned money while I was training. But this changed again with the Olympics in 2000. And there afterwards, people had the possibility to earn more and more money.
So when you found out that triathlon is going to be in the Olympics, did you instantly think, I want to be part of that?
I wanted to be because everybody in the team, we were talking about Olympics, we were young. And so we were really keen to go there. And I couldn't imagine how Olympics are really. Yeah, it was what I thought it will be and how it was a massive difference. Olympics is incredible. You can't imagine before what you see there, who you meet there, what change in life can Olympics make. And for me, this day, these 1 hour, 48 minutes changed my complete life.
What was it like then when you're in the athlete village in the Olympics? It must just be extraordinary. You must see people all the time who you've only seen on TV. The atmosphere must be incredible. What's it like to be in an Olympic village?
The first day we came into Olympic Village, I couldn't believe what I've seen. You know, you've seen other athletes like Haile Gebrselassie just passing you on the run. there was a little running track in the village, and then he was surrounded by 10, 15 other really fast African runners. And yeah, you were in the middle of them, like this slow white guy. And yeah, then I have a picture with Maurice Green and Arthur Bolden the day I won my medal. And yeah, then a few days after, they won their gold and silver medal. So this picture is still hanging in my living room at home. And yeah, this is experience. You only know these people from TV. They're the most popular sports people in the world, and you are part of them.
Is it hard to keep your focus when you're in the village to remind yourself why you're there and not just get caught up in who you're with and what you're experiencing?
Yeah, you see these guys just for a few seconds, so you are a bit distracted. But these guys, they go out for food or for training, and then they go back to bed. That's what we did as well. It's as an outsider, maybe you don't understand the life of a professional, but every 3 seconds and 3 minutes, you are in your bed or on the sofa. You don't walk around, sit in coffees or whatever, or do shopping. Every second you try to recover, and that's what's for me the whole year before. Before that, I never did it, and afterwards I never did it because it's such a big sacrifice. You don't meet friends. I hardly see my family, and really every 3 seconds I was on the sofa in front of the TV or was sleeping. I've heard that said by Tour de France cyclists in the past. Never stand when you could sit and never sit when you could lie. That year before the Olympics in Sydney, your level of commitment, it sounds like, just went to a level it had never been to before. Yeah, and a level that wasn't afterwards before, because it's a high price you pay. And I was lucky. I gained my medal, but other people, they had the same lifestyle for 1 year, and then you come home with place 4 or 30, 40, 50, and you don't have anything. And then you sacrifice nearly 1 year of your life for this day, and then this day doesn't happen for you. It's a hard life, and I was lucky. I got silver, and I was the happiest silver medalist ever. The day after the race, the Olympic Committee sent someone to me, and they told me the Olympic Committee is really happy because this is the Olympic message that to be there is already a gain. And everybody thought, wow, he lost the gold medal on the finish line, but I was so happy about silver. So yeah, that's the Olympic spirit. Just thinking about that year before the Olympics, though, what was the motivation? I understand everybody thinks they would like to win an Olympic medal, but was the thought of winning it just such a strong motivation, or was the part of you thinking, well, if I can win a medal, it will lead to future success in business, or I could use it to my advantage in the future, or was the motivation purely the thought of being an Olympic medalist? The future benefit, I didn't think at all about it. And I never thought that it will be a big benefit in our small side sports. Triathlon was a really small sport. We were first time there. And so that was, I never thought about it. But as you said before, to have this medal, that was a dream, you know, to be there, to gain it, the biggest sports event in the world. And yeah, to be maybe the best one in the world on this day. And so that was for me always in training. One sentence I always had in my head. I thought, and now the Olympic gold winner, Stefan Vuckovic, representing Germany. And as soon as I had this in my head, I could go faster again, could go harder again, longer again in training. And this was for me, this sentence, I don't know, it was like a drug. To go harder. It was incredible. And did you know that it would be your one shot? If it didn't work in Sydney, did you, after the year you'd had, did you just think, I can't do this again? I never thought about that. I only thought, okay, this day, and you will go for the medal. And I was in such a good shape. I had a really hard coach, and I called him the year before, and on the telephone call, I said to him, hello, do you want to coach the coming Olympic medalist in Sydney? And then he was laughing at the telephone and said, come on, we meet and we talk. And he only coached me because I had the attitude to win. And his attitude was as well, he had some hard words, you know, he said, you will kill the others, you know. I didn't want to go that far. I just wanted to beat them in the race. But yeah, this was this attitude in training as well. This really, okay, this day, the 17th of September. That's why I know this date still today, because in training always I was thinking of this day, 10 o'clock in the morning in Sydney.
Did you have a sports psychologist, or was that attitude just inbuilt in you?
No, I had never such a coach, but I was always, when I did something, I did it like in an extreme form. My parents told me when I was a kid and I played with Playmobil, for example, other kids, they play 15, 20 minutes with it and then they put it away and try to play something else. And I played 5-8 hours with this stuff. You know, or in school when I prepared for the Abitur, the last exam in school in Germany, I was on holiday. I was doing 8 hours of math every day. Nobody forced me. I wanted to have a good result. And in math, in the Abitur, I got nearly the maximum result. And so it's, I think, my attitude to life. If I do something, I do it in a proper or in an extreme way.
And with that mindset, give us an insight into how much you're training. What does an Olympic athlete do a year before the Olympics? What does a week look like?
The average, I think, was I did like 10 hours of running, plus minus, then 10 hours of bike, a bit less in swimming, and I spent 4 or 5 hours in the gym. And that was a big difference to the years before, that I did lots of gym training, lots of core, lots of power for the legs.
You started doing more of that year before the Olympics, you mean?
Yes, of the core and the weight stuff. The years before, I was cycling lots, and we did lots of mistakes in preparation for races. But long term, it was good because I had such a good base through the 2 years before, 98, 99, because I was training up to 55 hours a week, lots of cycling, but we didn't need it in our kind of race. But then in the year 2000, I trained so much of power in the gym, and especially lots of sprinting in the run and short, hard stuff in the run. So this long-term training, 2 years of base and 1 year really hard, was my big benefit.
Just rewind a second. You say you were doing upwards of 50 hours training a week. People who consider themselves quite active might do 5. They might play sport 5 times a week for 1 hour. How does the human body deal with that? You must spend a huge amount of time dealing with injuries and stretching and all the other things to go alongside it. I mean, you almost have no waking hours free.
No, in these weeks, I only was eating, training, or sleeping. But yeah, you get used to it. I didn't start with 50 hours a week when I started 1991. You know, you start with 15 hours a week, then some weeks a bit more, then again less. You have a cold or you get sick. Mainly it was my immune system that broke down. With injuries, I was really lucky. I hardly had any injuries in my life. So, yeah, and then you build it up year by year. You can't do it from one year to another to come up to 50 hours a week.
And how is this calculated? Do you just do a 6-month training block and see if it worked? How scientific were you in your preparation?
We were a generation, there were hardly any coaches in triathlon who did triathlon before. And so I was one of the first ones who started to have a running coach, a cycling coach, a swimming coach. And there I got my ideas, my inspiration, but I put it together on my own. With the national coaches, we had some good years, some worse years. And yeah, then, it was often trial and error in this kind. And if I look today, they have coaches, a big team of coaches around them. We didn't have it. We had one guy who did everything, and then often I listened to my body and I said, okay, I can do more today. I feel fine. And then sometimes I say, okay, maybe now I'm in the limit. I stop. And I think I have a good sense for my body, and this helped me in these years.
So it's literally just a case of going on the run and thinking, I feel like I need a bit more weight training, or I feel like I need a bit more distance in my legs. It was really as simple as that.
Yeah, sometimes, I started like with 4 minutes decay to run, and then in the end I thought, boy, let's go faster. I feel like now, and then you go down to 3:30, 3:20, and you still feel fine. And then it wasn't the aim of this session, but the body said today you can do it, so I did it.
And do you think everybody else was training the same way?
We had some other guys who trained really well. So I didn't win every race in these years. I was lucky this day. I had a good preparation. I had a good coach who made me fit for this special day. And I remember the week before the Olympics, I nearly got sick. I felt it already. Oh, something is going wrong. And then, it could have been going completely the other way, because when you're in such a good shape, you go one step to the left, you are sick, you go one step to the right, you make the best race of your life. So that's like, if you're in shape, it's a quite dangerous situation.
That's one thing that strikes me, actually. It must be terrifying in the last few months and weeks before the Olympics. Just, does it cross your mind that you could just fall down the stairs or trip over a tennis ball at home and suddenly it's over?
Yeah, I never thought about this. I was just focusing on my training. Everything went well, and I think it was 7 weeks before the Olympics. I was in altitude training, and I ran too fast downhill, and my back couldn't handle it that well, and I got a really bad back infection. And then 2 days later, I couldn't move anymore, and so I had to leave the altitude camp. And I went at Sunday night to a hospital that they checked my back, and they said no sport for 1 week. And I nearly got crazy in this week, and
did you stick to it though?
Yeah, the first 2-3 days, I couldn't even walk in the water. I couldn't swim, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do a tumble turn in the swim. I had such a bad inflammation at my spine. And then after a few days, the doctor told me, okay, you can do a bit of spinning. And so I sat on the spinning bike, and I was cycling over 7 hours on the spinning bike because I nearly got crazy. I'm in such a good shape, and the Olympics are coming. I have to train. And after a good week, I could start training again. And the first run session, I nearly went all out, and it was one of the best run sessions I ever had in the preparation of the Olympics.
And then when the Olympics is very close, about a week before, do you just stop doing anything?
No, you keep your system running. Usually the third week before the race, you hardly do anything, that you have a complete recovery. And then the 2 weeks before the race, you get some tension in your body again, and that you are ready. Because if you rest too long and you want to race, you are like on a sleeping pill. Your body is not willing to work, and so you have to wake up your body a bit with short and hard training. And so that you are at the start line on the morning and you are ready.
I'm just thinking, the triathlon, it was quite early in the Olympic program, wasn't it?
The second day, the male one. The first day was the female race.
So you weren't, once you arrived at the Olympic Village, really, the training's done then?
Yeah, most of it. We arrived 15 days before, but just to check in. And then we went to the Gold Coast to train, because in Sydney it was not so easy to train and it was too cold. When we arrived in Sydney, it was 2 degrees. So we went to the Gold Coast to train, and then 3-4 days before the race, we came back to the Olympic Village. And then it was much warmer. 2 days before the start, it went up to over 20 degrees, so normal temperatures in Sydney. And
you're a guy that likes the heat. That must have made you very happy.
Yeah, when I arrived there, I thought, hey, it's 2 degrees. I can't race at 2 degrees. I need heat. And so, 2 days before the race, the weather god changed his mind and it got warm in Sydney.
And when your race was done and you were able to soak it in, what did you do for the rest of the time in Sydney?
I was really lucky because we could stay in the Olympic Village. Most of the athletes have to move out because the new athletes are coming. And so I could stay 2 weeks in the Olympic Village. And I've seen McDonald's in the Olympic Village, and before the race I said I don't eat there. And after the race I was minimum twice a day at McDonald's, and I gained over 4 kilos in 2 weeks that I stayed there. But after 1 year of sacrifice, you are like a dry swamp. And but I didn't hardly drink any alcohol there, because I knew there are so many journalists, so many politicians, so many people who decide in companies who might get a sponsorship. So on this way, I behaved.
And then with the Olympics finished, you actually carried on competing another, was it 12 years you carried on?
Yeah, I raced till 2014, 14 years longer. I changed to Ironman distance after I missed out the qualification for Athens because I was really disappointed of many things. And so I took half a year off. I didn't want to train properly or to race. And then 2005, I said just for fun, let's do an Ironman race. And I finished second. I qualified for Hawaii, so I had to go to Hawaii, finished top 10 there. And so, yeah, I went on with not 100% proper training like before Olympics, but some kind of training where I could still be in the world's peak.
And what was the motivation then? Because after the high of the Olympic medal, it must have been so hard to still get up in the morning, put your trainers on, run big distances day in, day out.
Yeah, the motivation was different because after Olympics, I had contracts with companies where you have to be at several events a year, and there you miss out training, you miss out sleep, recovery, and I did lots of social events where I could help people who needed help. And because it was easy for me as a silver medalist, people listen to you and they look up to you, and it was easy for me to help these people. It was a big loss of time, but of training, of sleep, but I could help these people, and this was for me more important than 100% appropriate training.
Which was more fun, before the Olympics or after?
It's different. I really love the training, the dedication, the speed you could run. I love fast running, and I always say there's only one thing that's nicer than fast running. That's even faster running, and that's what I really loved and miss, especially today. When I look today at my speed in the run, it's always a bit disappointing because if you know that you can run under 3 minutes on the 10K, and now you don't come even close to it. Yeah, but it's a different part of life, and you still do the sport, but you have many other things, and family was always important for me, and I didn't want to have again this 1 year where you sacrifice everything, friends, family, your own life.
So when you started doing Ironman, was it more just for a passion for doing it than necessarily to achieve something? Like, you no longer had that concrete goal of the Olympics, you were just doing it for fun?
Yeah, I still wanted to have good races, but I didn't train like you should be if you want to be the best one. Yeah, and I knew that. I did lots for my sponsors, social stuff, so I knew it for myself. Other people always ask, why are you not in the front anymore? And I said, because I'm not. I didn't want to explain to others. I did it for me, and I'm not a public person who is posting every day what he's doing or why. It's close friends I told what's going on in my life, and all the others. It's not really professional, but I didn't care.
And to the casual observer, going from Olympic distance triathlon to Ironman is harder. Is that how it feels, or because you had so much base training from over a decade of doing triathlon, did it in a way feel slightly easier?
To think about the training was a bit easier in Ironman. In Olympic distance, you had to think more about training. In Ironman, you have to do lots of hours, and this is much easier to fulfill.
Because it's lower intensity.
Yeah, lower intensity, and I didn't spend so much time on thinking about training. I just did what I wanted, and it was not always the smartest thing, but we had fun in training, so yeah.
But it was pretty successful, as you mentioned, in Hawaii and elsewhere, but you won Ironman Florida as well. I mean, you had some really good results in your Ironman career. It wasn't just the ending of your career, it was a successful chapter.
Yeah, it was. I had several podium places in Ironman, but if I look back today, I said I could have done better if I focused more. But there were reasons why I didn't focus more, and one thing is the motivation to sacrifice again so much, and then I wanted to do other things in life as well. I finished my study beside sport or just after sport.
What were you studying?
Economy engineer, and so I always wanted to keep the education as well going. So I interrupted my study for a few years, and then I did an exam again, then again 2-3 years nothing, and then an exam again. So this was always an interruption again of my Ironman career.
So when you finally finished in 2014, How did you come to that decision?
I always waited for the day when to stop, because always people ask me, when do you want to stop? And I said, I don't know. I don't want to set a date like the 31st of December 2000 anything. I want to stop. I wanted to wait until my body and my head says, that's it. And then after I did an Ironman in Arizona, at the end of 2014, I had a really good preparation. I got sick the week before, and so the race was okay for being sick before. But the week before I spent more time on the toilet than in training. So yeah. And after the race, I felt, okay, that's it. I don't want to race anymore. I don't want to train like this anymore. And now there's a deadline that I have to finish my study. So I finish my study and do other things.
I've heard athletes say in the past that in the middle of your career, it's really hard to imagine retiring, but one day you just know it's over. And I wonder if you can pinpoint something that happened. It seems so random that you just do a race and just think, that's it, I'm done.
I don't know if there was something special in my surrounding, but I just had the feeling, no, that's it. That's what I waited for. You know, I can't even say today what was it. The getting up in the morning and get the feeling. It was, I think, like a procedure of over a few days or weeks, just between the race and like Christmas. The race was in the mid of November, and until Christmas I knew, okay, that's it. And yeah.
And what's it like when you retire? Because how old were you at this stage?
42.
So you've been putting your body through a hard time for nearly quarter of a century. What was it like waking up retired?
You didn't have the pressure to go to training now, to all these have-tos, you know, when you wake up in the morning, you have to. I didn't have them anymore, and that was quite a big relief. And yeah, then I really enjoyed it, because I didn't have it for 24 years, because there was always something, either my studies, then sport or social projects, sponsors. And there I had a few weeks and months where I hardly did anything. I prepared my second career, the coaching, and I started to finish my study.
Well, speaking of the coaching, sadly for you, it's not like playing soccer where you can retire on the money you made in triathlon. You had to have a second career. Did you know when you finished that you'd go into coaching, or did you need a while to think about it?
I never wanted to go in coaching, because the time I was an athlete, I've seen the coaches struggling with the athletes, especially the psychological level. And I always thought I will never, ever be a coach, especially of women.
Why'd you say that?
I think it was a special constellation in the national team that there were always so many arguments with the coach and the female athletes. And I never understood these arguments. And one girl said, I don't want to swim with her on the lane. I don't want to stay with her in the apartment, and really unnecessary things in my eyes. And I thought, I never want to handle this stuff in my life, you know. And then right at the end of my career, a friend asked me if I can coach him. And I said, no, I don't want to. Yeah, but you have so much experience. Please help me. I said, no. Then a few weeks later, he came again, please help me. And okay, I do it. And then word of mouth, another person came, a female one. And then I helped her as well. And so the stone went rolling down the hill. And yeah, now getting more and more people. And it's more women than men. So I think it was just a special constellation in our national team with the female athletes.
So you haven't had the problems you expected?
No, not at all. No. That's lucky me.
What were you planning to do when you retired? Did you have a plan?
I had always my study in the head, and I was never a person who has these long-term plans, because I know in life everything changes every day, and if you're open-eyed, there are always doors you can go through. And so I was, let's wait and see what happens. And yeah, the coaching business got more and more. I tried some other bits. They worked as well, but the coaching was the main one.
And how much coaching are you doing now? It's your only employment now, hey?
Yes, but it goes so well, and the word of mouth. I do hardly any advertise, and people talk about my work. And so then I get telephone calls like, here, I heard of you from this and this person. Can you help me as well? And yeah, that's so the last 2 years, business exploded.
And is it mainly going on camp? Because you go to Lanzarote and a few other places on camps, or do you also have athletes here in, say, Albans and London?
I do camps, but I have athletes meanwhile all over Europe, on Canary Islands, in Switzerland, mainly Germany, and now word of mouth is spreading here in St. Albans as well. So I have a few new requests of people in St. Albans. They heard of this lady I made so fast in half a year, so I have to make them fast now as well.
And what are you getting out of the coaching? You must really enjoy it.
I love it. It's to see that people improve. In the beginning, usually I shouldn't say that now, but as we talked earlier, I'm a quite open and honest person, and I say sometimes things where you don't make many friends, but some athletes I want to protect from other coaches, and I want to give my knowledge. I want to avoid them to do the mistakes that I did in these early years with trial and error. And most of the athletes, or of the even people who do just 2-3 hours just for fun a week, they do all the same mistakes. They all go too fast, too long. And with testings, I tell them, okay, this is your limit. This is, if you run like this, if you go on running like this is not healthy. And after a few weeks, people feel it, understand it, and then they believe in my system.
Can you get the same buzz from coaching that you did from being an athlete? If, for example, one of your athletes in 2020 or 2024 won a medal, how do you imagine that would feel versus winning your own medal?
I would be happy, but I don't have any professional athletes, so it won't happen that my amateur athletes will ever go to Olympic Games. They just want to have a healthier life and be a bit fitter. But no, you will never ever get the satisfaction in anything else in life like as a professional athlete, especially in endurance sports. It's such a high level of satisfaction, and after your career, you need something that gives you a similar satisfaction, but it's really hard, especially for endurance sports, to find something that makes you that happy.
I've always thought it must be really hard for athletes to retire because you have this excitement, and also in the case of your Olympic medal, you have a big goal at the same time, and then suddenly you wake up and you're just another person. Is part of you sad that it's over, your career?
Yeah, it's some part says in my body it's sad, but there are so many other things in life you can do, and I want to do many other things, and I don't have the time for it right now because coaching got so much, and it's good for my purse, it's good for the people I coach, but for the other things I want to do, it's not so good.
So what's the plan in the future then? A bit more coaching and then something. I know you said you're not someone for long-term plans, but 5-10 years down the line, where do you think we'll find you?
To have a few more babies. I have now a 14-month-old son, and I love every second with him. So I sacrifice everything right now except my coaching to spend time with him and to teach him life and to play with him. And yeah, I love nature. I love to spend outside in the forest or in the garden to plant something or to just watch stuff growing. Or it's so many things to do.
And when you look back now, does that medal mean just as much as it did?
Yes.
With all that's happened ever since?
It's, for me, it's a lot. But when I come, for example, to a group of people who don't know me, and then they ask me what I do for a job, I never mentioned the medal. I said I did some professional sport in triathlon, and I was quite successful. It was okay, but yeah, I don't mention it. I don't need it as like an ID card. Yeah, and yeah, I'm happy for myself that I have it, but I don't tell everybody, hey, look here, I'm the silver medalist. So I even don't like the people who tell it then, the others, that I won the silver medal. Yeah, so I want to keep it for myself and for my friends.
Well, in a world of people documenting every second of their lives on social media, it's lovely to hear such a humble sentiment. Thank you so much for your time, and who knows, maybe we'll see you doing that ski season you promised yourself all those years ago.
Yeah, I told you before, if I ski, and before triathlon I was skiing, and during my professional career I always said I don't play football anymore and I don't ski anymore because it's too dangerous. If I have there an injury, you are out for half a year and maybe that's the end of the career. And so I said when I stop my career, I will go half a year skiing and then playing half a year football, but I didn't find the time yet.
Well, I'm a keen skier myself, so hopefully I'll see you on the slopes. I can buy you a beer to thank you very much for your time. It's been fascinating. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Enormous thank you to Stefan for his time and for giving such an extraordinary insight into one of the moments of the Sydney Olympics. To attend one of Stefan's incredible triathlon training camps or to book some coaching from him, check out his website www.premium-training-camps.de. Olympic medalists offering their coaching services to everyday athletes is quite a rare thing, and Stefan has more clients every year, so get in touch with him to take that next step in triathlon. We'll be back next week, but before then, please help us out by subscribing, sharing and spreading the word. Speak to you next Sunday.